Everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and today, this wonderful Saturday, I'm going to be showing you how you can paint this gorgeous fairy tale nighttime scene with this sweet little girl yourself at home, step by step, every step of the way. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hey guys.
He helps me do that by using one of our mini robotic cameras to be able to zoom in and see what I'm doing on the painting action. He's going to get you right into the brush bristles. We've got a lot of stuff to help make it easier. If you check the description below, the complete materials list is there. On the website, we provide the free Traceable, and I'm going to demo to you how to use the Traceable today. I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm kind of ready to just jump on in because I'm excited to paint this girl. She's going to go so good with all of the other kids that we have in our Sweet Kid collection. You ready, John?
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's get into it. Boom, you go. He's right there. He just goes. I always expect him to go right to the easel and then to there, but he went another way. So I have my reference here. John's going to have a picture in picture so that you can follow along easily. Let's look at our surface today. I'm going to be doing a 10 by 10 square, and our wish today from community member Mary is to have a very safe surgery. So we wish her lots of safe surgery and healing and quick recovery. And then personally, we're wishing for communication and understanding and help from the Sherpa community to help us keep our Facebook groups really positive, really beginner focused, really hobby focused. And I know you guys have got that. And I just want to say that we just keep those groups in that positive space that we've all been working for. And I really appreciate everybody's help in that lately. It's been just amazing to see that fantastic support. You guys ready to see the paint materials?
Absolutely.
Okay. So to begin, we're going to definitely do a solid color ground, and it'll look like I have two of the same color paint, but I don't. This is a little ultramarine, and this is a little phthalo blue, and this here is burnt umber. And we're going to do a very deep color all the way around this surface to kick it off, and that's going to help us really build up this painting. So it's a good way to begin. Let's get ourselves a nice big boy. Let's get our big number 30 short-handled ruby satin. So nice to use a short-handled brush. I'm going to come here and dip it in water. I drag off the extra, and I'm going to get just almost an equal mix of ultramarine and phthalo blue, and then about 1 part burnt umber. And it's going to take us into that great, fabulous nocturnal kind of color scheme. You're going to just coat the whole canvas with this. It doesn't need to be smooth or perfect. You just want to make sure that you're covering the canvas, that the little white pops are not coming through. I'm dipping in water. I'm dragging off the extra. Get a little bit of the paint. And you can see it's just a very loose general mix. We're not having to be very particular yet. And I like this stage of the painting, John, because it gets us warmed up. You know?
Yeah.
Gets our minds in that painting Saturday mindset.
We gotta get
in
those.
that mindset.
You gotta get those brush muscle memories moving.
Get my brush muscles. My only muscles that I have are my brush muscles. Now, today I am demoing on a stretch canvas. That means it is a canvas cloth that's prepped, that's stretched around stretcher bars. And something that it's nice to do if you're doing a surface like this is to paint the edges. So it's a good time now to just go through and give those just a coat of paint. If you frame, this isn't necessary, but if you're hanging your pieces directly to the wall, painting the edges can help it look more finished. And if you get this very thick versions of that, that's called a gallery wrap, right? And those don't ever get framed when they have the very thick stretchers. They're just ready to go. And I think they look quite lovely. But for this, even for these thin little stretchers, this is a nice technique that you can do. And it will save you some money and some time. And who doesn't like that? Buy more paint.
That's
more
a good thing to be able to do with it.
That's right. That's what I always do with my savings is I buy more paint. Now I am going to go ahead, rinse out my brush because I don't want to leave acrylic paint in it. It'll ruin it. I'm going to dry the surface, and John can tell you all about I'm going to change up the topic. I'm not going to let them talk about color shift.
Okay.
You can talk about the website and how everyone can find all the free resources that are available for them.
Okay. So, as she was saying, over there in the link in the description down below, you'll find a place where you can click. Go find TheArtSherpa.com. Not very hard. So when you go there, you're going to find a whole bunch of really cool stuff that will help you with your painting journey. First and foremost, if you click on the video button, the video tab or button, it says videos, click on that, and it will allow you to go to the video search engine where you can type in any one of your favorite search keywords like girls in the rain or mermaids or brush techniques or things like that, and you'll find all of the videos that we've done on that topic. So they're available right there for you to find.
Just a few.
Just a few of
Just
them.
a handful, a couple, a smidge of them. All right. So the Traceable. Now, you guys have a version that you can print out on your printer. I have the hand-drawn done one here. And what I do is I take a sheet of what's called Cero paper. I like the white and I like the yellow. They've worked really well for me. I use the kind for art painting. If you press really hard, it seems like it can be hard to lift up, but I don't. So I haven't really had trouble with them. But people have mentioned that they had a little trouble getting up the lines, and I think that's about the pressure. Now, I've used this piece of Cero paper, I think, for every kid painting that I've done. How I tell which side it goes down on is I touch it with my fingers, and the finger that has the white smudge, that's the side. I'm going to tape this to the surface with a low tack tape, and I like to tape it a couple places because the enemy of tracing is movement of the traceable. I don't know that tracing really so much has an enemy as it has just difficulties. I think enemy might have been a strong word, John.
Yeah.
This is really weird. It's not sticking to the top of the canvas for reasons I can't determine. It is sticking to the rest of it. I don't know what's going on there at the top. So see, all of us have little funny, odd moments in our painting, don't we?
Yeah.
I'm going to take the traceable part of this, and I'm going to tape this down. I'm going to get it placed on the surface where I want her. I want a little room for some grass up front, and I want her to be fairly central. You could always just, change your mind at the stage, move her to the side, move her to somewhere else. That's okay. But I think I want her fairly central, and I'm going to tape her down in two places as well, so that when I do my tracing method, you know what? I'm going to change tape. What is going on with this tape? It's like it got oiled or something. Won't be using that one again.
So acrylic paint has some anti-stick properties to it for some kinds of adhesives.
Yeah,
so that tape
it normally works. And look, this one's going to stick just fine.
It would only
it's
be
weird,
funny
isn't
if
it? It's not even sticking to the tracing paper.
Huh. It
probably just got steamed or something crazy.
It's April Fool's tape.
You know what? If it is April Fool's tape, I know where you sleep.
Wasn't my tape. I didn't put it out there.
Who else's tape could it be?
I don't know.
You're the buyer of tape.
I thought Amazon was.
I am the buyer of cookies, and you are the buyer of tape.
Okay.
I can be blamed for all cookies.
Okay.
Except those weird shortbread ones you like. I'm not blamed for those. So what I'm trying to do is get a nice positioning here. And that way, when I trace over it, I get a good result. Dun, 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 dun. And then all I'm going to do is go over this with a sharp instrument over all the lines that I have. And it's going to transfer the image onto my surface. So I tend to not work out my freehanding on my canvas, because it can take me a minute and I can erase or change my mind or move something. So I do it on tracing paper, and then when I get a final image, I ink that, and that becomes the graphic that I transfer onto everything else. It's a pretty standard art practice. They actually teach you this skill in art school because for a long time, artists use alternate methods of getting images on canvases because this stuff was expensive and hard to make. So you wouldn't want to work some of these feelings out. Now, for you guys, I definitely gave you lots of information about all the folds in her fabric. So you can have that and be able to really know where those are. I even gave you some information about where the inside elbow was on her, because usually the elbow is always at the waist, but this is a high-waisted dress, so her waist is probably here. Is there. That's where arms work. But the dress hides that, so I wanted to give you that information just in case you weren't seeing it. Oh, a little tracing on a Saturday. I like this little bit of nose that's showing and a little bit of eye. And the cute little cheeks and mouth. But I think my favorite thing about this particular girl is the little headband in the hair. I don't know why it pleases me so much, but it does, John. Just pleases me to no end. So just remind myself that there's lots of this here, and talk a little bit about maybe some of the pleats.
The pleats.
And the shadows that could be happening.
That's a fancy word for intentional folds.
Exactly. Well, there's some, situational folds, and there's some intentional folds. And hopefully, if you do get it taped down and you do get all that done, you get an image that transfers some kind of in that sort of a way.
That's actually pretty cool. Like I would just almost leave it like that. That's kind of cool.
I'm sure there are artists out there that are doing kind of bright line drawings on surfaces like this. Now, to get up the extra smudge, I'm going to go ahead and just use a wet brush and clean up this extra sort of smudgy white stuff where I squeezed it or was holding it strongly or doing any of that to clean it up.
That turned out really cool.
Yeah, I'm fairly pleased with that.
It's almost like rotoscoping.
Isn't it? A bit. It is a lot of fun, I think. Now I'm going to go ahead and get number 4 Cambridge Bright. I'm going to put out a little, I think, titanium white. I may also use a small detail brush here. So this is a number 1 detail from the TheArtSherpa line. This is a small bright. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of catch my highlights in some of the elements of her now using the white paint so that we can have the very light aspect of her later.
Now,
see how I'm just sort of sketching it out? And that's helping me already think about those shadows. Isn't that kind of exciting?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I get excited about it.
I know. I think it's really neat. I had a question for you here.
Huh?
I had a question.
I love questions. Let's take some questions.
On a scale of 1 to 3, 1 being the easiest, 3 being the most difficulty, where are we at on this one?
This is a 3 hoot. Pretty much all of, if you look at this, this would be like a companion piece to this one. This is the mother and daughter and Poppy's lesson that we did. Very similar in difficulty level. So I put all of these at a 3 hoot level. I've got a ton of kids. Ton of them in different things. I got girls, I got boys. I got all kinds of different lessons sort of featuring these romantic fairy tale versions of children.
You can find those on our website by going to that video place I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, and I'm sure our moderators, if you see one here, if you're like, oh, I really want to paint that mother and daughter, I didn't know that was a painting, I'm sure the moderators will help you find that link, and I'll be sure and add it to the iCard after the show. I'm going to come right here, and I'm just making sure that these parts of her are light. I definitely think we want the lantern to be a little bit light already, because we're going to have to do a lot, aren't we, right here? So I'll take its structure, and I'm being very loose. I'll come back and paint this in a very structured way later. Look, it's just a little bit of white paint. This also will help you as you do your background and everything. Really enjoy keeping that going. There's the upper part of her arm. On the outer shoulder here, coming down. We're just making sure that we can get these light values. And you can see I scrub where I want a little bit of white, but I don't want it to be such a high saturation of white. And it does really help her come through. That's why I like this, is it's a brush I feel okay about scrubbing. I know some of the people that did our Acrylic April challenge, they went through these Cambridges till they were all gone.
Oh, I know.
It was pretty fantastic. Now, in the area around her hands, perhaps, and in some of the more delicate areas, I'm going to switch brushes for a second and put on my vision enhancers.
Oh, yeah?
So I can see what's going on. And I'm going to get some details in. All of these little steps now are going to help me have a much more successful end result.
Those are very sparkly vision enhancers.
They are. Well, there's never enough sparkle, is there? This is just going to help me make sure that when I go to put in my hands and things, I've got some of that great shape retained from my traceable. And I'll come here and still refine, but it will help. It does help when we go to paint, especially in the skin tones and things. You'll be very grateful. For those extra lines. Now I'm going to come into the face. And I'll make sure, you know, that these parts of the nose, above the lid, see how we're holding on to those parts of her. The forward-facing cheek. Gonna have a little highlight right here. I have a Red Riding Hood in a very similar face position. I hadn't thought to pull her out to show everybody. But if you painted her, the red with the red cloak, was very similar to how we got that done. And I really loved everybody's results. They were so good.
So one of the other cool resources you'll find is in the link in the descriptions down below. You'll find in the links in the description down below, one of those will go to the project page of this project, of this painting. So you'll go there and it'll have a link to Traceable. It'll have a little link
that you can download.
Yep, you can download that Traceable. It'll have a link to our hoot meter, and hoot meter is a funny way where we rated paintings, whether it was 1 hoot, 2 hoot, or 3 hoots, because there are little owls that so you can vote over there on whether you think this is a 1, 2, or 3. Is that right?
Yes. You can even say it's more hoots than you could ever imagine. We definitely appreciate that feedback. It's very helpful to us.
Yep.
So I'm going to sip my coffee and we're going to take a look at that for a second.
We're new hoot oriented.
Right. And you can see that this creates does this remind you a little bit of a negative print?
It does. It's it's got a ghostly appearance to it.
I realized that I missed the hand here. So it's always good to take a minute back and look at your piece. Because look, I was going to go sip some coffee and relax, but I had missed some. And so, you know, I have to come back and paint that. And that's what this stage is for. This is going to set you up. You know, you've got the Traceable to sort of give you a guide as to how this piece goes in. And then you can use the paint to even improve that. And remember, you can always paint stuff out, change it. You need to make something smaller, bigger. It's acrylic, so that's doable. But this just gives you a chance to really have that happen. even as we're painting it all in loosely. Woo! Yeah! I don't know why I'm so excited about it. Do you love my enthusiasm? Yeah! I'm going to put out some Indian yellow.
That doesn't look yellow.
That is not. That is phthalo green. I'm thinking Indian yellow, and I said that.
I was going to say that yellow has turned bad.
Is Indian yellow.
Okay, that's it. That's much more yellowish. That
other one, much more yellow.
That other one looks like if it was yellow, it went bad yellow.
If it was yellow, it was a bad behaved yellow. All right. So taking that in, I've got my two next colors that I think I'm going to use out. I may also put out some tinting white at this stage. So we've got some regular white.
Now, if you didn't have tinting white, what else would there be?
Zinc white, mixing white. We always put those exchanges in the description. So if you don't know, they're there.
No, it's just more transparent than your other white.
Yeah, it's much more transparent than titanium white, and it makes this type of landscape a lot easier. And one of the reasons that we rate this a higher rating is not necessarily that the painting techniques will be that hard for you, but sometimes there's an unusual color that you might have to, order extra. So that will also raise a hoot rating if I think there's paint colors that you won't just have already in your paint box. So if you've been painting with me for a minute, you probably do. Saturday coffee. How are you?
Good. Oh, this is very good. I'm very happy to be back into the switching position and getting to do more videos. I like these.
I like
10 by 10 surfaces are kind of cute. I like how
they go.
Yeah.
Now we have, if you want to have matching ones to that, we also have these two little ones, which would be real cute to go with it.
Those are cute.
And they're on 8x8s, but you could really easily make them a 10 by 10. Those were part of our acrylic April series.
Can I ask you, how are you liking working on that stretched canvas versus some of the surfaces?
I personally actually do prefer stretched.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do prefer stretched. The reason I do the flat canvas boards is because I have several thousand paintings at this point, and they're a storage issue. These are like I'm wealthy in storage space, which I'm really not right now. I'm gonna take a little of my ultramarine blue and my tinting white here, and I'm gonna come here and make a little line for myself to know where my horizon and sky begins and where the field begins. That's just a little bit above, like it touches the top of her thumb, it comes through the middle of her bicep, and through that middle point on her arm. If you'd like to know an exact measurement from the canvas, it is 4 1/4 inches from the top. That's right. That's how we tell you stuff you need to know. So I'm going to take a little bit of my phthalo blue, ultramarine, and a smidge of my umber. Kind of what we did in the background, right? But put a lot of tinting white into it. Or zinc, or mixing, whichever. And go ahead and just begin to put in this background space.
You're
If I was smart, I could just use a bigger brush. You can just see that I'm not being delicate about this at all, am I?
No, not really.
No, because it doesn't need to be delicate. We're just getting kind of a layer going here. This is far away and distant.
A distant scumble.
It's a distant scumble. It doesn't need to be in focus. It can be very blended and soft. This is the pleasure of this brush, is that you can scumble like that. Now, there's some implied background sort of plants here. So I'm going to take my phthalo blue and my ultramarine and a little of my green, and they're going to make quite a dark color. And I'm going to come here and imply very loosely, as you can see, a little bit of a distant hedgy line. So it's slightly darker, right, than our background. Out of focus. I can take that down. Distant, out of focus. I'm just painting with my little brush. Now, I can come over here, and this will be hard. This will be taller, and it'll come down. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that I'm not cloning shapes. I'm not repeating the same shape over and over again. I'm randomizing shapes even more than's in our reference. Because I promise you, photographs are like that kid that can break all the rules and never gets in trouble and nobody ever sees it. And it doesn't matter how much you point it out that it's a photograph and it was like that. Nobody will believe you. It's just like that. Because you can say forever to your friends, but it was like that in the photograph. And they'll be like, yeah, but it doesn't look right. Certain things in photographs are fantastic in the photograph and look terrible in a painting. So you'll see me make adjustments for you in this design to make sure that you don't run into that problem. Because I'm caring like that. But that's really what it is. Now I may come back through with like slightly darker versions, right? Like you can see me come here and sort of, hopefully John is picking it up. He's pretty much a genius with his camera there.
I'm not doing anything except pointing them in the right direction.
He's a genius. And I'm just what's called modeling. It's making it an uneven, not uniform value, right? You can see I'm just pressing the brush in. And that creates, again, a little bit of a distant yet soft implied texture that helps us see those as far away. I'm going to go ahead again and get a little bit of my ultramarine blue and phthalo and some burnt sienna. Right? And we want to come over. Watch, I'll wipe out the extra pigment off my brush. And quite a lot more this time of the tinting color. And I'm going to increase the contrast along these little tree lines. Look at this. Make a really nice painting.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be really pretty when it's done. And again, we have so many. There's the girl in lavender. There's the girl in blue bonnets. The two sisters I'll show you guys later. You know, so this is getting to be quite a large collection. And I got another request for little boys. So I'll probably do another couple little boys coming up. So these are wonderful to have in your home and in your life.
You've turned the corner on collection to problem.
Yeah, no, I have a hoard. I have an art hoard. Like if we ever sell, it won't be because we want to sell art. It'll be because we have to for survival.
We're gonna need a bigger boat.
We're gonna need a bigger boat. We're in a really tiny home, so I mean, there's also that. It's a very small home for like a family of 5, just as it is. But then to add such a large painting collection, it definitely
it's spilling out everywhere.
Creates some issues. So isn't that lovely how that
nice.
Creates those zones and those spaces?
I like it.
Now we're also going to rinse out. And this is a really wonderful way to do fog. I'm going to put in some of my green before I do the fog.
Mm-hmm.
So the green, I'm going to pull out some of this green and add some of this burnt umber into it. You can get a little of the ultramarine blue in there too. Okay. And that makes a very, very muted green. And to test that it's muted, I will put the titanium white into it. And if I need a little more brown, as I do, the more brown you add, the more kind of mint it goes into that deep army range. So coming back here, I'm going to just loosely, I'm still on a number 4 bright from Cambridge. I haven't even changed brushes yet. I'll come across here and just go ahead and get this distant background because you want it to be quite light. And now you're kind of seeing how nice it is to have had the white put in. So even if I go over an area from the traceable, it's not hurting me at all, is it? I've got the information that I need. And you can see how the painting having this blue underneath it lets me paint in a very relaxed, loose way without being so concerned about every single little precious brush stroke. And I like the noise. It's a great noise. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my Indian yellow and I'll come into that deepened green that I've already made. Just, I want it even darker than that, just a bit more. There we go. If I need to deepen it, I can always get the ultramarine, because the ultramarine and the Indian yellow make a green gold. So see how I have very random little shapes right there? And what am I using on my brush? I'm using that toe. The toe gives me lots and lots of give and forgiveness. And I can just bring this forward, creating that sense of green going forward. You can even come across, it won't hurt you. I say use all the paint. It's fun stuff. Fun stuff, John. Little brown, little ultramarine. Getting those green golds out there. You got to create those atmospheres. Look at how quickly we got a background coming in. Now rinse out real aggressively. I'm going to take my ultramarine and my burnt umber together, and it's going to make a very deep blue. And come right here and make some dark shadow. Can you see that dark shadow coming in? This is all before I put in a single blade of grass. And then up here, I might bring that dark value. If you'll notice, there's quite a lot of shadow going on in front of her. That darkness is about 1 inch, 2 inches up the canvas. I will kind of mix it through. Maybe put a couple spots here and there out there, out into the wilderness here of the green. Scrabble, scrabble, scrabble. Scrabble, scrabble. Now just a little more of my Indian yellow in towards my phthalo green. I'm going to make sure that I've got some kind of brighter warmth that I'm building around here, around the lantern. Because that will be happening in that light. And she almost has a yellow glow around her, which we may really play into. So I'm going to take a little bit of my white and my Indian yellow already. This is the tinting white, so it's the transparent one. I'm going to come under the arm and hand, up the arm, maybe down the dress, and around the fingers. It's easier for me to put that in now than any other time, because I haven't done all the like work of like getting her little fingers a glowing, getting all that little stuff. So if I do it now, later, it will be right there. And she's got a little bit of a glow around her too. And some of the glow around her is what makes this feel like a fairy tale. So again, tinting white in the Indian yellow. The transparency and the way I am handling my brush This is so light. You don't want a stripe or a really strong kind of overwhelming line around her. You want a halo. You can see how we're getting the little halo in it. I hear John typing away.
Oh,
Which
they were
means
just
he's answering questions.
just answering some questions that aren't necessarily pertaining. So if it's not necessarily a pertaining to today's like lesson, I try to sometimes let you, because you're teaching like.
Oh no, I love to listen to you answer the community. It's awesome.
We've moved some of the videos around on the site. So if you're looking for some of the older videos or some of the stuff like that, and you're not finding them on the website or on YouTube, check on our video section, because sometimes we have to move those around for various reasons, but we always keep them available out there somewhere hosted for you to find.
And you can always write support at TheArtSherpa.com if you're really, really struggling finding something, and we can help you. We can direct you to it.
Yeah, sometimes if we're moving a video from one host to another, we'll have to. You just let us know, and we'll make sure we relink it back in on our website. You can always find it there.
I'm just making sure my little glow is quite delicate, and will be like a little soft halo around our girl. So this is the first time we've done this like haloing effect, I think, on a whole figure. So I'm kind of excited about this because I haven't gotten to demo this painting effect. But you can see it's very transparent and it's very muted. Now, I want to take my tinting white and kind of create a sense of fog back here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab just it. I'm going to go over everything. Softly brushing that transparent white.
Just got a little fog machine going in the background.
It's like a little fog machine. It's a really wonderful tool, zinc, tinting, mixing white, to do things like fog off a lake, clouds, any of that kind of atmospheric work. Because it lets you build the layers. It still shows, because it's a glaze, all the colors underneath. And that really helps create that atmosphere.
So you could just sign it and then call it Halloween.
Right now?
Yeah.
You know what? You're right. It's a bit of a ghost, isn't it?
She's just like, this is
She's
cool.
got a bit of a ghost thing happening.
You put a little glow inside that lantern and she would be creepy.
She might be. I might have done her more zinc than titanium and then built up just a bit more titanium. Like if I was going to do her as a ghost, I'd do her a little bit differently. I could do one this Halloween to demonstrate it, because we always do the 13 days, which hopefully will go over well this year. So you can kind of see how I do leave the dark, trees back there, but now we've got this wonderful fog effect, which is fun. Again, very similar to what we did with the mother and daughter in the poppy field. Oh, so nice. How fun. I mean, it's fun for me. It's really fun for me. That's how it is for me. Hopefully it's fun for you. I'm having a blast. I'm going to come here maybe with a stronger bit of it. And I'll kind of do little circular strokes. You can kind of see how I do those. I like those. I like them a lot.
A lot of people are looking forward to the 13 days of Halloween.
Me too.
I say a lot. I saw one person say it, and then I was like, I look forward to it too. So the two of us are a lot.
You're like, it's a lot. I'm going to do my ultramarine blue. And I'm also going to put out some, in this paint line, it's called Fuchsia Quinacridone. But really, this is Quinacridone Magenta. And I know that because the pigment code is PR122. And if you ever see PR 122 on a tube of paint, doesn't matter what it says here, it is quinacridone magenta.
Got it. PR
122.
I already forgot it.
And I've started to memorize these codes. That's how crazy my life is these days.
That's, respectable.
Respectable.
If that's your thing,
It's an interesting kind of side effect of my world. I can't remember if I put Naples yellow on the list or not. But if I need it, I'll get it. All right, so I've got Cad yellow, my quinacridone pink, my ultramarine here, and some more titanium white. And I may have to put out some more tinting white in this area because we're going to be kind of working some, we're going to start building up on the dress, and then we'll get into some skin tones in a half second. But I want to start kind of here. So the pink base that I'm going to start with, I think, I'm going to take a little bit of this pink, and I'm going to experiment with warming it with just a bit of my Indian yellow. I have my Cad yellow here if it goes all wrong. I'm going to pull out as much of the pigment as I can. I'm going to begin painting her very, very light, delicate dress. And you can see that's already helping me with what I'm trying to do. I love the pink of this. I know I've got a lot of hair that's going to be coming over the top, but I still want this to show very strongly underneath. So it's important at this stage that I make sure that those colors are in here, as we are doing right now. And the hand is coming up on top of the dress, which is why I'm painting it as closely as I am. And I'm just trying to get this first layer in. I'm really excited about getting to the periwinkle nature of it all. Isn't that sort of delightful? Talking maybe a little bit about this wonderful ruffle right there, and there's a little highlight of a ruffle right here. One curves in here. And the blue underneath actually is helping us a bit. I'm going to get a little of my yellow into that. Put some right here. Because her dress is distinctly picking up some of what's going on with the lantern. And I want to make sure that I'm showing that as much as I can. So where it's close to the lantern, or the fabric folds could pick it up, you're going to want to add a little bit of the pink. As it gets further away, we're going to go more into the blue. I've got a little bit of my Indian yellow here and my white, my tinting white. More Indian yellow, I think, is needed. Indian yellow is by its nature quite a transparent color. So it's going to be really easy to start to create that sense of the glow. See how it's very transparent?
Yes. That's the nature of that yellow, though, isn't it?
It is the nature of that yellow. And if you were in book club, you know all the stories behind this yellow.
Book club? What's book club?
We have a book club where we meet once a week, and we're right now reading Victoria Finley's A Natural History of the Palette, and we just all read it together. and then get together and discuss it. We've got a new book coming up September 12th. It's free. It's just a goofy thing we do. If you're a book person, it's awesome. Very, very awesome. If you're a book person.
If you're
a book person. Now, the nice thing about using Indian yellow here, I'm going to go ahead and put a little of my quinacridone into this mix, and it gets a little bit more orange, if you'll notice. The wonderful thing about it is that when we use the Cad, that will help our little pixie sparkles that are near her lantern show even more. I'm putting this right in the center of the lantern. Look at this coming out. See how we just are glazing. A lot of this is about transparent layers building up on each other, giving us an effect. And the wonderful thing is we get to exaggerate it. I like that part. The exaggeration is quite fun to me. Get some just pure, make sure that I come around here. I want it to be very strong around the lantern. I like it.
I like it too.
Now, skin tones are great. I'm going to do a very simple skin tone on her. I've got burnt umber out already. I'm going to put out a little yellow ochre. I have quinacridone magenta. And I think where possible, I'm going to stay in those ranges. I definitely will want a smaller brush to work through this. So I've got a number 2 ruby satin.
There was a question here.
I have an answer.
In your book club.
In my book club. Let me sip my coffee since we're taking questions.
Have you talked about the next book in book club, or are you still secret?
I have. It's a book by the Crafty Chica.
Oh yeah,
Life in a World of Glitter, I think is what it is. I have all the links and everything, and we start the 12th of September.
Ooh, cool.
And I think we're going to get her to come and do some. She said she was open to coming and talking to everybody because she's an artist, she's a potter, she's a writer, she's a businesswoman, she's a mom, she's all the things. Check all the boxes. She's all the things. So I thought she might be interesting for you guys to talk to.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, she's pretty cool. I think she's super cool. Super, super, super cool. And she's got an appropriate love of glitter. If you love glitter, she's awesome. If you don't love glitter, she's still awesome.
And there might be, you should examine your glitter issues.
Right. Because, it's glitter. Let's all be happy about it. So I'm going to take a little pink over here and a little of my yellow ochre. And I'm going to mix them together. I like it to be quite pink, and I may even go ahead and put a little burnt umber in there. And what I'm doing here, if you've never seen us do this, is this sort of our master mix, right?
Yeah.
This is the beginning of those skin tones that we have. I might use these in the shadows with a little, like if I take a little ultramarine blue over here and mix it in, that's like a shadow skin color. So where it's a deep shadow, but I'm talking about skin, that's a great color. I'll go ahead and do a little more yellow and magenta here. So I'm trying to get some ranges, and then I lighten them with the tinting or the titanium white. And you can see when I mix it in where we're going. Whenever I have this, I always try to look to myself and go, does it need more yellow? Does it need more pink? What direction does it need to go? And I would say little yellow. Too much. This is why I like to use a palette knife.
Mm-hmm. That's a long palette knife.
It is. This is a very long palette knife. But that gives me a basis to start, right? And so what I can do is I can then put on my glasses. I've got a bunch of different values of skin tone. Skin tone is all, in Caucasians, is going to be a type of red, a yellow, and some brown, and a little blue or green to cool. There's a book listed in the description that has 400 skin recipes. And I think it's important to know all of them because as you change skin tones, the mixing rules will change and the base formulations will change, as they should.
And
as they do in makeup.
you've got a whole bunch of stuff on your website about
Mm-hmm.
skin tones too, don't
I
you?
have a ton of videos and things about skin tone,
And hair colors,
and
and
all of that.
so if you want to customize to
I'm going to go
your.
ahead and get some Indian yellow into this. And, oh, I like that. The Indian yellow really works because that's throughout. You guys see that?
Yep.
So I'm going to begin. I'm going to just start with this sort of middle range because I'll need a highlight and a deep shadow. But I find sometimes it's just good to start with a middle range. And you can see how a small brush is essential. I have to say I did really good on this particular girl, better than I normally do because I didn't age her up much. I have a tendency to age up my kids.
You do. You make them taller, or
Yeah. I elongate their faces and I over elongate their limbs, and it makes them seem older.
I think you like to. What's the word I'm looking for? Where your uh, gesture. Gesture.
Hmm.
You're a big fan of gesture, and when you tend to exaggerate form to get gesture.
I think that I do, and I think it does definitely impact how my figures age. It's a thing that we have as artists.
Just
It's a skill if you work for the police because you can age people up, but not great if you're trying to do portraits because people generally want their kids painted the age that they are. I'm going to go ahead and get some water onto my brush to improve flow. And again, I'm just trying to get that first kind of skin tone going, and then I will come back and clarify. So it's rough in the beginning, right? When you're getting it in, it's going to look rough. The skin isn't going to have the finish that maybe you're looking for, and I don't want you to panic. Not the time to panic at all yet. You're still good. You need a little more pink. You can always get some in there. Yeah, that's easy for me to do. You can always lighten it. Easy to do.
now, do you have a favorite magenta shade?
Quinacridone.
Quinacridone magenta.
Yeah.
And is the quinacridone a wildly found
Yeah.
flower?
Quinacridone magenta is an easy to locate color.
It's just it's a synthetic color, isn't it?
It's a synthetic. It's in most paint lines. It's in most paint sets. So luckily, it's not one of the ones where you would have to search for it any particular amount.
There's no endangered quinacridones.
There are no endangered quinacridones. It is not. It is definitely a modern synthetic pigment. Now, when I have that sort of base in, remember we talked about you could have a shadow going. So I'm going to take this. I'll definitely mix it with the base skin tone that I had. I'm going to go ahead and get a little more ultramarine. And now we have this deep shadow. So if we were trying to talk about like a little bit of her skin there, under the dress, inside of the arm, maybe even at the elbow there. And the reason I bother with this at this stage is that then I can paint the dress in. And you need that base. So we're getting some of those shadows going in there. I'm going to go ahead and Take a little of my, what am I looking for? My pink, so I can talk about her dress a bit right here. I know I've got to put a lot of hair there, but I want a basis there. So I've just got some basic flesh tone kind of worked out there. And this is going to let me still kind of work at the dress very, very much. And then I can come back and focus at the hands and that. And then I'll do the face. And then I can put in the hair. And then I'll finish out with the lamp and the forward-facing grass. But I can't put in the grass until I get that dress in. It just won't work, yo.
Yeah. I'm just checking here.
Checking?
Yeah.
What you checking, sir?
Well, I was checking that the Traceable is loaded on the website, but the link to the today's website isn't loaded into the... Oh, where'd you go?
I am scanning back to look at it.
Okay, I'm going to load that link.
Okay, you load that link, and I'm going to start getting this in. So again, I'm going to take a little of my quinacridone and mix it with my ultramarine blue. And this begins to give me a kind of purple that you will see as soon as I add the tinting white to it. And along here, I'm going to begin to blend in that wonderful tone. The ombre on this dress is just spectacular. And what really attracted me to it. Get a little more. Now, when I want to cool it, I just add a little more ultramarine blue. And that will cool and create that deeper sense of shadow in the dress. So right here, back here, and towards the edge of the grass, I do want that to be a fairly deep color. See how we're doing?
Mm-hmm.
But as I go up into the dress, I want it to be a little more purple. So that's a little more of a 1-to-1. And I will use my tinting white. And we're going to come here and make sure that these fabulous colors are there. Coming up on her chest, I'm going to create the shadow here. It's not going to go too far forward because remember, she's got some light that's impacting it. Now there might be right here in that little seam, as it comes down, a little bit of that deeper blue, right? As we're painting this chiffon. And then down towards the base and the grass, it gets what? Cooler, doesn't it? And we're going to take this dress into the grass even past our little sketch line. And the reason we're going to do that is that as we put the grass lines up, that will really capture this. Some of my favorite. Now back into the magenta, a ton of the tinting white. And we haven't even pulled in our secret power, which is the titanium. Because where we need something to really pop, the titanium will get us there. Right? Because it has such a strong tinting strength. So we get to use these glazing colors. And then when we're ready, too much pink pigment in there. So I just kind of rinsed out the extra. It was just sort of in there and I wanted to make sure that I had gotten it out. There we go. Aren't we starting to see her dress? Oh, I love this.
Mm-hmm.
Been wanting to paint her for a long time. Wasn't sure if she was going to be just a patron painting or a whole community painting, and I'm glad I decided to do a whole community. I think I'm getting pulled into train over on the patron end. So at least that gives me a minute to work out my train response. Because, you know, trains take a second for me to think about.
Do they?
And yeah, oh yeah. It's very architectural as trains. You can see I'm just building up these lighter values. There. Look at that. Just sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. Now I can start getting a little of my titanium white over here into the mix. And you're going to immediately see what I mean because it's going to be a lot whiter. Even on a half to half mix, right? Where it's half of the white in that, it definitely is. Now I'm going to soften that shadow right there by just going over it with my tinting white. So you see it's still there, but it's softer. I'm just, like the trees, I'm just brushing that back using my tinting white. Getting those values lighter, but yet we're still seeing the shapes and the shades. Aren't we? And those wonderful undervalues, which I think were so special in this dress. The pinks, the purples, the blues, and the light of the lamp on her.
Yeah.
So just starting to capture those bits of what is going on. Now I'm going to take a little of my Indian yellow into my quinacridone like we did before, which just warms it, right? We still want it to be strongly pink. I'm going to wipe out the extra. I'm going to come into this titanium white. We're going to make some quite light colors. And come down that. These are very light. Can you see how that's just lightening up the dress?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit sticky right now because it's in between dry and wet. And I find when I'm painting, if my paint gets into that place, it's a good time to give it a dry. If I have to put out fresh paint, put out fresh paint. But what I don't want is a lot of drag on my brush. Oh,
Just check it out. So, there we go. So what she means by drag on her brush is that the paint, as it dries, gets kind of sticky, tacky, and it will grip the paint that you're putting down and cause it to not lay down in a smooth, fluid kind of way. So if you dry your surface and make sure it's completely tack-free, you know, tackless. You don't want a tacky painting.
I don't want a tacky painting, no.
Maybe tactless.
I want it to be tactless. So, you know, I'll let it have a rest there. And one of the things that I can do is I can come over to a difficult area of my painting and maybe start thinking about my hand. Right? So we're going to come in and we know that we've got a little bit of a shadow color in the skin tone. Get my little master mix here and you can see that gives us that shadow. And come here very carefully, defining that. I find in fingers and things that those shadows are super duper important. You know, like the shadow here on the thumb. Let's very carefully talk about this finger here. And then there is another little friend of a finger that's right here. I definitely want to come down the bicep. And here at the crease, I want to definitely talk about that shadow. As we do. A little more of this right here. Necessary. Going to pull in a little bit for the eye. Starting to catch those colors, those shadows, those spaces. More blue if I need it. And just paying attention to right here, the top lip's a little more in shadow. We want to definitely, if we're going to catch that cheek, I have to put that there. And there's a little bit of a lip and this great chin. So catching all those things is going to be our own little challenge. I'm going to come here and get a little bit of this skin tone on here. Maybe add a little pink to it. Get right into the white. And what I'm always fighting in my studio, and I don't know what you're fighting in your studio, like right now it's gotten so hot and dry. Right? You can see me going and finding those yellow ochres to add into those skin tones. Make sure that there's a nice little highlight where there's going to be nostril. We definitely are going to have a little highlight space on the cheek here. If you're having trouble getting the blend out, and I'm going to move my dirty water out of the way, you know, I can thin it. And we'll just keep popping those features until we get them. And the trick will be to not... I'm going to do something here. So my paint's too gummy to work with. Which is one of my least favorite things. Gummy paint. Nobody needs it. Nobody.
Nobody?
Nobody. All right. And then we'll get a little white out because we really want this to be the skin tones we want to be able to get a lot of control over. Right? I may even put out my glazing medium here to get this. That's going to slow down the drying time of my paint. Let's come here. And just begin that range of skin tone. And I'm sure I'll put out some more. Where'd she go? There she is. Of that. All right. So wiping off. There we go. Quite light. I love, love, love that. That helps. So I can add a little bit burnt. Take it through the range and still get some ultramarine for shadows. So we're okay. We're doing well. Now, her top lip, I'm actually going to take a little of my quinacridone and a little burnt umber. And I get just this pinker color, like, you know, more pink color. I'm going to come under the top lip, and I really actually start to paint the bottom lip. A little more quinacridone on there. There we go. And then we're going to take a little bit of this, and we'll go ahead and darken it a bit with our burnt umber. Gently, carefully work out the top lip. Faces are hard because little changes have big impact. And that's something that you've got to kind of resign yourself to when you're painting faces, is that little changes have big impact. So you may have to come back and you paint something, and then a minute later you have to change where it's painted or how it's painted to keep the face how you want it to be. You can see I'm really kind of trying to create that space of more shadow. Maybe a little bit more of the base, and the burnt sienna, that takes it more red. And remember, I can get into this to slow the drying time down. But what I must not lose is the roundness of her face.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Whatever else I've got going on, otherwise I will age her up. Now, I'm not saying it won't happen, but we're going to fight it every bit of the way. Because I painted her because she was a young girl, and that's what I wanted to paint. Now, I can always come back with a little bit of a background color if I need to shave her nose or anything from the front side. So don't forget that either, okay?
Right.
You're covered either way. You can subtract or add. You're not trapped. The brown and the blue is like our chromatic black. I'm going to need to move this here. I'm sorry, guys. It's too tough for me to see far away.
That's okay. It doesn't interfere with us at all.
Okay, good. Because if I'm going to catch what's going on here, it's going to be super critical for me to observe my subject.
It's coming in really quickly.
She does. Once they start to come in, they will start to come in. It's just sometimes we've just got to find where that little space is and how I can, again, keep her her age, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Very challenging to not age out your subject. Now I'm going to also put a little bit of a highlight there. That should help. This is more of a kind of yellow highlight. I'm going to put one here on the cheek.
Yeah.
And it's rounded. And then this comes back a bit. Kind of see where we're going now. The little spot on her nose needs to be, there's a couple little spots that need to be highlighted. So, like right there. And I think I want to highlight right there. Above the lip. Still going to play this little highlight above the chin. And I'm going to keep playing the highlight right here. And I may get a little more of my yellow ochre into it so that it's a little more yellow on that highlight. And I'm using my glazing medium. And that's going to also help it look like there's a light. And that's important. That's what I'm trying to play with here. Little touches. Ah, we're getting her.
Oh, yeah.
Always a thing. Always, always, always a thing. And what you see me doing is kind of knocking back her. Her face is going to be a lot in shadow because of her hair. So it's super important for me to make sure, I'm going to get a little more quinacridone here, that I don't get too bright. Because I'll want to often. I do. I found that about myself. I'll want to get bright and add a little pink here around this little face line. And I'll blend that softly because it's going to be peeking out from the hair. See what I'm doing? I'm just kind of blending it. It's there, but it's blended in. A little yellow ochre. And I'm talking about that glow from the lamp. See?
Yeah.
Now, got to do all that here. You can do a little bit on the neck. Not much, though. Be careful. But right there, we can put a little bit of glow kind of implied at the dress, at the neck. Now, by the time we get all the hair in and everything, it's going to seem like not that much would show, but you can put a little bit in. Hands! Let's go, hands! I'm going to get some more of this pink. It's okay if it has a little bit more yellow ochre in it because it's near the lamp. But I want to start working out some of these flesh tones. So.
And you're still using that same brush.
Yeah, I'm still going between, I'm like working this little number one. So often it's hard to see what's happening on a hand, I think is where it messes with people. notice that I'm taking a little bit of the blue to create like maybe a little shadow. I'm going to exaggerate that little shadow a bit here. I'm going to get a little more of my ultramarine brown mix. And shade the hands so the fingers look like they're coming forward. Maybe a little bit back at the palm. And I'm shading a little bit in the palm, the divot of the palm. Now, it's quite dark and I'm going to want to soften that. See how I use the glazing medium and I soften it?
Yeah.
I'm not stuck with something that's overwhelming and particularly hard. Then I go back in, getting my lighter colors, right? Adding some more white to it. Maybe a little bit right here. That palm. See how her hand starts to pop in?
Yeah.
Okay. Starting to talk about the little fingers. Fingers are complicated little beasts. I want to show that they're lit, that they're there, that they're being impacted by the lamp. Let's get a little bit of our Indian yellow out now. So just a couple places, you know, maybe like there. Just adding a little bit of that glow.
Yep.
So that the hand looks like it's impacted with that. Often we forget that fingers are quite rosy. So I'm taking a little bit of my pink and my Indian yellow and my glaze. And here at the tips, I'm going to begin to rosy them up. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we don't have all the shading problems that we had previously. We're just remembering that they've got to have that kind of rosy glow. Highlight on the tip. Highlight on the tip. Highlight on the tip. Hands like faces are little adjustments. So now what we should have is a little hand that's open and delicately holding the lamp. And what I've got to do is soften that shadow. So what I did getting back was just making sure whatever I had going on in the hand wasn't so dark and so intimidating that we were losing the little girl to it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So what you see me doing here is glazing and ever so slightly lightening that all up. And if I have to move it, I will. Which it looks like I might.
Oh, wow. Just
Yeah. There we go. Now, in the context of the little white handle gets put into there, and we'll use a little Indian yellow and white to do that. I'll make sure I've got my glazing medium so Blends out nicely, behaves nicely. Not with a little hair attached to my brush. That will help us quite a lot. So now you can see that it's sort of holding that, right?
Yeah.
Let me get a little more white on there. Keep working. Keep working it, keep working it, keep working it. All right. Going to continue building up. Wonderful chubby little arm. I am softening that crease there. See how we're doing this?
Yeah.
Get back from her. She's quite lovely. I can still get into this and this anytime I need. Softly placing that wherever that's got to go. And we can always get a little more magenta involved. Like you do. I'll warm that with a little bit of red. And it's always just that dance. I'm going to take a little of my Indian yellow and I'll go ahead and get out my tinting white. I've got to put some light on the arm. If I don't, it won't feel like it's there. So, tinting white, Indian yellow. You see the glow?
Yeah.
You need it. And put some right there on her little bicep. And now I've got her, she's glowing in the night.
Mm-hmm.
This arm. And then I can finish the dress and the lamp and the hair. Pretty great stuff. Go ahead and get my glaze going. Everything we did over there, we're going to be doing over here. Love these little rosy skin tones.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody doing okay out there in
Very, very good.
YouTube land?
Yeah. I think I was really focused on your switching there, so I'm going over and double checking everything. Everything's been cruising right along here in chat. People seem to be enjoying what's going on.
We don't get to do these little three hoots too often, but when we do, they are a joy.
No. That's true.
A little highlight right there at the shoulder. There we go. Starting to build in. Bit of that light.
This is the part of the day where I miss coffee the most.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
missing a cart right now too, and I had some.
You had some coffee.
Yeah, painting is, if you haven't noticed, painting is a physical activity.
And this is a bit of a more complicated one where there's a lot of skin tones involved. You got to do a lot of work.
To have her come out the way I know everyone will want her to come out, yeah, we got to work. We got to work. We're going to have to really think about how we're doing what we're doing and why we're doing what we're doing. And
Why?
nice little yellow ochre highlight. And I think should be one right there. Gonna come in and a little of this white into that. Improve that overall. Just very carefully along the arm. Kind of give that a nice line. Can you see that now?
I can.
Now I'm going to come underneath her hand and kind of really over it with a little bit of my blue and my zinc white, which is going to paint out her fingers a bit, but I need to be able to make sure that the dress feels like it's underneath.
Right.
And so to do that, I'm seeing that I got to do that. Because the idea is her hand is resting, you know, kind of on top of that dress. You know, so that's just a little bit of the blue. You'll notice I can still see my fingers going through there, but it'll just feel more solid. I will dry that.
Yeah. And just making sure that between the layers that you don't want the you don't want to pick up any paint between your layers. So that's why she's making sure she gets that nice and dry.
I will allow it to rest. It's important that it rests, and I'm going to do some interesting things. I'm going to come here, and I'm going to take just a smidge of my Indian yellow and my tinting white. And right here, I'm going to tap in what we'll later visually interpret as some little flowers on this part of the dress. And then as we come back, our little white flowers will have a little blue in them. Put a little more tinting white. So we are doing those little flowers. We are doing those little elements. I think that they're important.
Yeah.
So you want the mixture to still feel like it's a white, but back here on the back side, you want it to be a little bit cooler. And notice I'm not painting petals.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm not painting petals is this is sort of a loose, what's called a loose painting. And if I paint the flowers very, very tight, what happens? I have to paint everything that way. Whereas if I do this bit right here the way that I am, you'll get the sense of this delicate little dress where petals are, but you won't have to deal with this. Is a bit of my pink and my titanium white. And that can do some very powerful stuff. It can come along the neckline. And just that opaque, slightly lighter value. We're going to also come along the waistline. Look at that. And paint that in a bit. I very much kind of like these little purple blue flowers, which are essentially ultramarine and a little quinacridone. These we will do titanium white. They'll be light. And I'm just going to make little marks like that. So that'll show those little petals there. This will look very nice underneath the hair when we put the hair in. I think it'll be so pretty. While I've got this color out, which is essentially a little bit of a purple towards the blue with a titanium white, I can do some cool stuff. I can begin my lamp. I'm going to come here and say, all right, so the lamp comes down like this. Comes across, so it has this sort of dome top. If I overdo the dome top, what I do is I'll come back and shave it back with a clean brush. See how I can do?
Just erase it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Then there's a kind of wider band here. And then this little comes down here. What I'm trying to do is just make sure that structurally it looks correct.
Oh, right.
So that's why I've had to paint and change some things. I want to make sure it's structurally correct. If I overpaint like I did right there, what do? I'm gonna erase, which is very doable. Don't feel like it's not. And this has kind of like a little fancy bottom here. And then we do have a fancy top. Fancy tops, John.
What makes them fancy?
Oh, the little ornateness about it. It has a lot of ornateness about it. And that's what we're going to try to make sure that we demonstrate. The back handle will be darker than the front handle. A little purple. This is what we do. Come under here and make sure that there's a little bit of a shadow. Later when I come in, it's going to be super important to have these things there, because I'm going to try to get some of the kind of ornateness worked out.
Yeah.
But I need to have that worked in. So now we've got the beginnings of the lantern.
Yeah.
Because we were here anyways. We've got the beginnings of the dress being done. We've got the beginnings of the hand. Let's finish out our little hand.
All right.
Fun to get that skin tone going, isn't it? So, a little bit of a thumb. A little more pink in there. Just trying to get a better flow. That's what I'm doing with my glazing medium. Now, in this space, the hand is quite curled up.
Sort of resting there on her dress.
Yeah, just resting on her dress. Getting a little green gold going. So I can come here and what? Trim it. Trim where it wasn't working. I'm going to put out a little more ultramarine blue. So we are deep in the hardest part of the painting right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone is here with me going, oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We've got like over 400 people. This is a big deal. There's lots of people here. We're in the quiet part.
This is the quiet part where our brain's like a burning. You know?
Yeah. Focus.
Oh, well, you got to sometimes. You got to focus on what you're doing on occasion because it's complicated. There are a lot of moving parts. Let me improve the flow on this. A lot of moving parts. And to get it to work, we've got to move a little bit slowly. A little bit. Now I'm going to come around on the dress and just kind of exaggerate that shadow here, also underneath the hand.
Yeah.
Just to help it show. I love being able to use my glazing medium to slow that drying time down on the paint. All right, so nice little rosy fingers. Always sort of wonderful, isn't it? Little rosy fingers.
I like fingers.
Getting that little hand right there, a little bit rosy. Little red, little brown, little red. Making sure that, you know, both hands feel like they're painted in the same way. That also makes sense. It's important to do.
Yeah, it does.
That's what I'm doing, is just making sure. Now, I need to extend the thumb out a bit. I'm just going to find a bit of color. And I need to bring it right to the tip of the other finger. And you see that kind of helps that form, doesn't it?
Totally.
So now the hand looks a little bit more like the rest going on here. I'm going to take maybe a little bit of my yellow ochre. And add a little glow here as well. See how we're doing? Trying to show that that light is happening elsewhere on her. And again, she's at night, so it's quite dark, and that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and get, it's a little yellow ochre, but a lot of white. Maybe some magenta. I need to make quite a light color of this, though, because we're going to paint in, use it to paint in the bit of nail that you can see. And that can be quite a pain to get correct. My tip is to have a really good detail brush.
That makes sense.
There we go. So now we have a nail. And I'm going to get back from that, make sure I'm happy with how all this is going and what I need to change. So we're going to get back. John can zoom out for a second so you can see it kind of as I'm seeing it, what I'm looking for in relationship to what's happening. Yay! All right. A little more shadow. And just to finish out, I'll add that little bit into the hand, because it's there. Just those little curls and things. Now, back to the dress. Back to the dress, yo. Yeah. We have the new white out, because fresh white is always a little bit easier to work with, right?
Right.
I'm going to put out a little more Indian yellow. I'm going to put out, obviously, a little more quinacridone. We've still got plenty of the blue, so we should be quite good. Now, first thing I'm going to do is get a little of my yellow, smidged with just a bit of the pink, and a lot of the white.
You're just scumbling that in?
I'm just highlighting some of those spaces.
It's getting to that quiet time.
It
You're
is
just
getting quiet.
deep into the paint.
I'm deep into the paint. I'm deep into my thought. Hopefully you guys are deep into your paint, deep into your thought. And we're now paying attention to the way our garment is perhaps flowing into the grass. This is one of my very favorite parts of the whole process.
I can see why.
Because that's where she's coming together, right? And we're layering up. So you can see how this is very similar to the mother and daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Really similar to the girl in lavender. And we've still, I'm just dry brushing the white back here, still got this wonderful dark tone in the dress, but we can now really see that light.
Oh, yeah.
While I'm here, I'm going to begin to work out the lantern, which you'll notice is not going to be a bright white. In any way.
Can be kind of muted in the shadow.
Because the way the glow from it would impact it.
It's so bright that it overwhelms.
That it overwhelms everything around it. I'm going to talk a little bit about the filigree on the lantern. Not too intensely. Some people, you know, if you're a person who's like, oh man, mandalas, they're like my favorite, have at this. Mandalas, I guess, correct pronunciation. All right. Me, not so much, so I will probably be very general. We'll talk about that. It's a fancy, fancy little lantern.
Kind of Moroccan design.
Yeah. Very Moroccan. I'm just wanting to catch, because there's so much glow going on, I'm going to be probably pretty reluctant. Catch all of that. I'm going to say there's little delicate bits, but what I'm really going to be jamming on is the glow. And then we'll get her hair. And then we'll get the grass. And she will be one of the cooler pieces that we've done.
Yeah. Is every bit a 3-hoot.
Every bit of 3-hoot. I did not overrate her. But on occasion, as you're learning to paint, you're going to want pieces that are maybe a little more involved.
Yep.
And, you know, show you how a piece like this might find its way. So you can see we got a lot of it.
Oh, yeah.
This needs to have a little rest so this can all dry. While it's resting, I can put out a little bit of my black. I've got some brown right here. And this may be too big of a brush.
What brush is that you're using?
This is a number 4 Cambridge. It might be too big. I might need to go smaller. The thing is with hair, when you start out, you're really painting shapes more than anything. And so it can be tempting to kind of start to talk about those shapes with a bigger piece. But I think I'm going to need to get it down to maybe this number 2 bright ruby satin. See?
Yeah.
And then even down to my detail brush. because there's a lot happening here for her. That much like all the other girls that we did, going to take a lot of value and line and form to represent. But you can see as her hair starts to go in, you're like, oh, that makes a lot more sense in this moment.
Oh, yeah.
I'll have to get in with the smaller detail brush. There. I don't try to paint every individual hair. You sort of paint the overall shape and feel of the hair.
Right.
And you can be quite whimsical about it. It can be much more emotion than maybe it would be in nature. Switching to my smaller brush so I have some control over this next bit. I'm loving this. Right? I think if you really, really love hair, check this one out.
Oh, yeah.
Because we really got into it. It was a two-parter, but it was a ton of fun to do.
That one really gets into a lot of the highlights of the hair.
And a lot of the same techniques. So if you're like, man, I can handle this, you can probably handle the whole collection.
Mm-hmm. You've got those on a link in the iCard?
I will. I don't yet.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sure the moderators know all the links to them.
And you can find them in our website. But yeah, we'll get them put in here.
Yeah. For anyone here live who's like, I got to go there right now, we can probably get you there. You can see where our delicate touch required right there.
You can totally tell.
Because we had a little bit of tendrils coming from both places. I'm going to get back and give her a look again. Oh, she's a perfect little dreamer, isn't she? Yeah.
I'm really happy with that. There it is.
So you will often see me kind of doing some things to sort of, I will get more fanciful with hair that I have, anything that I've got going on. I think I'm going to take some little pink and white, and I might even get a little blue into it. Kind of like a mix, a loosely mixed. And I'm not going to do the metallic band because I didn't really like that. It didn't feel like what she would have. So these are going to look like little petals. And they'll feel very similar to the dress. Take them back, not too far, about that far. If I have that dark kind of under thing, then I can come over the top of them with a little bead of white. And highlight some of it, and then that gets quite weirdly spectacular. Now, my brown and Indian yellow. We're going to start to talk about the highlights in the hair. The thing about hair is that what you're really painting is the highlights and shadows, right?
Right.
And I may even pull out some burnt sienna here. To really help me. But my first thing is to get the big overall kind of like highlight, low light kind of a thing here. Other feeling about hair is you can never have too much of it.
Yeah.
Especially on fantasy paintings.
Yeah.
Let's get some highlights going. I'm getting some yellow ochre and Indian yellow into this, and then I think I will look first to my tinting white before I get into a white white.
Okay.
So you want to highlight the directionality of each little path of hair. And I'm using this sort of gold color because I don't want to, I'm not trying to make her blonde. This is like that natural sort of range that happens in beautiful, brunette hair.
Mm-hmm. You're kind of picking up the highlights, the reflected light.
Mm-hmm.
These last layers really come in quickly.
They do. The painting comes, when it starts to come in quickly, it really comes in quickly.
And it's interesting because relatively speaking, you don't know that, man, these last, 30, 50 brushstrokes are really going to make a big difference.
They're the biggest difference. I think a lot of people, when they're watching tutorials, really try to see what's happening at the end because there can be a lot of prep work, but you want to see how it's going on at the end. Because this is where you, me, artists in general, we're going to find what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I really like this work in the hair
Yeah.
quite a lot. It's like my favorite thing. Now, getting my brown again and a little bit of my black. That's sort of a deeper value that I have in this. Right? And I'm rolling it out because I'm trying to get a very fine.
Oh, yeah.
Here at the bangs, I want to make sure that those are pieced out very delicately. All around her face, so it's framed well.
Mm.
Keep her in that little girl space. I'm exaggerating the folds and layering of the hair. So how I paint hair is I'm going through and I'm creating like the cascades or the flow. I'll start to see within it these shapes taking place, and then I come back and I just go with them. I don't fight them. Instead, I lean into them.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Just taking a look. Is everybody tickled?
Oh
I'm
my.
super tickled. I
I
can't wait to
love
hang
it.
this on the wall.
Yeah. She turned out so nice.
She did.
Very complimentary to the other girls.
Mm-hmm. She's a great sister. We're gonna do some more brothers real soon. I've got a little prince I'm working on with a fox. You're gonna see a lot of foxes on the channel for half a minute. But and some soapbox derby, some different little pieces that I've been looking at doing. What you see me doing here is just finding those little bits of flyaways that happen, because they do.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last thing.
Yeah, there's a little white dot on the crown of her head.
Oh, I don't know what happened there.
Is that a...
As a boo-boo.
Oh, okay. Toot, toot, toot. That wasn't intentional.
No, that was just a boo-boo. Boo-boos happen. To everybody. Boo-boos happen to everybody. And you just kind of, learn to work with them. Now, the one last little thing, this is my kind of weirdness. See how it goes for me before you do it.
Ah.
I'm going to take my yellow ochre and a little bit of white. This is quite light. Piecing out little bits of this highlight.
Oh, yeah.
Little bits of light hair are a big deal to me.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like it's essential to kind of find those and piece those out. Not everywhere, but just a few places to also kind of inform about the directionality of everything. Because if you do that, then then her hair is just a living being.
Yeah. It looks really good.
All right, glow. You guys
Glow.
ready for the glow?
Yeah.
Me too. Let's put out a little cat again.
Where's this glow going?
All around the lamp's got to have a glow inside, doesn't it?
The lantern, yeah.
Got to glow inside, got to glow around, got to glow everywhere, got to glow out of town. Guess what? More
What's that?
tinting white,
Well, that's
which is
good.
zinc or mixing. Remember, it's many, many things. Doesn't have
Mhm.
to be just one thing. So first, a good amount of that Indian yellow we've been using everywhere. No, a little bit of cadmium yellow in tinting white. Some cad yellow. Is what's in the lamp.
Some light.
Some light. Some very intense light. I actually don't want to use that because I'm going to use it for the little sparkles so that they show.
Ah.
Now, in the lamp, pure white. Because white is what when it's bright? Light is almost white.
That's pretty cool.
So taking that, and now we've got that glow that's just luminous from the lamp. I'm going to go ahead and take my detail brush, load it up with a little bit of cadmium. You see those little glows now?
Oh, yeah.
Like little tinks? Gotta get
Those
our
are
tinks
great.
in.
Yeah.
So there's an emotional painting in all of us, and I feel like we're getting pretty close to the emotional painting we were trying to make.
Yeah.
The sparkles are super important. And you can see why artists end up with 6 reds, 2 yellows, you know? Why do we have so many of these things? That's what we get to do now. Grass!
Oh, yeah.
Finally!
That's the lovely.
The last step. I need to step back and look at this. Everybody have a moment looking at your piece. Take it in, walk back from it. You know, when you're up close, you're going to see the roughness of it, the painterliness of it. But when you get back, you'll start to see the actual composition and the painting that you've got. All right. I'm pretty pleased with that.
Yeah.
I will not lie. I don't know why I would lie, but I will not lie. Put out some Indian yellow. I've got some cad yellow. Still have some burnt sienna. Put out some phthalo green. These are all good colors for grass. And I'll start with my scruffy brush, I suppose.
Okay.
I'm going to get a little bit of my brown and my green together. Right about in this space, I'm going to begin to talk about blades of grass.
Just scruffle some in.
Yeah. So these, I like using a soft brush, a brush that gives me soft lines early in these more distant spaces.
That makes sense.
Because they're defined, but the harder the edge is, the more in focus something appears. So if something has a soft focus, you don't want it to have hard edges. That's pretty much where all of us struggle with clouds. Just in that way. Going along. I'm also sort of making sure that the front area has some values and some structure in a bit. Now I'm going to switch over to my Indian yellow.
And you used a different brush?
Yeah, I'm switching to a number 2 ruby satin. So it's a brush that's going to give me a finer line. See how that feels completely different?
Oh, yeah.
Some more dark green here. You can even grab a little of your ultramarine into it. And now you can see why I wanted you to bring the dress further than you needed it. And I do exaggerate those blades because I think that they add something compositionally.
Yeah, they do.
And
a little story down there.
Yeah, they are. They have a real story element, even under the glow. And sometimes, you know, you might go under the glow with, say, a very dark series of blades of grass. Look at that.
Oh, yeah.
Again, I don't want to pull away from her, so I have to be thoughtful in what I'm adding. So that it is considered. Too much. You see that?
Huh. Oh.
I don't want it. Everything underneath it is dry. I can take it away.
Nice.
Come back a little more delicately.
Oh, yeah.
Now, right there, kind of, I want to create some that are impacted by the light. So, a strong amount of Indian yellow.
Oh, wow. That's great.
That lovely?
Yeah.
Tells a story, don't it? I love this story.
This turned out really nice.
So when we do paintings like this, we tell a story. We tell a story to ourselves, and we spend a little bit of time in that story. And it gives us a break from, you know, the terrible stories that, you know, the media and the world kind of wants us to listen to. And we can get back to a little bit of something more gentle and sweet. And that's okay. We all know where real life is.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, it's nice to be here.
I like it.
With a little girl who's safe to be in a field at night with a lantern.
What's a magic lantern?
With a magic lantern.
I would not be messing with those little fairies.
Oh.
She turned out so nice.
Look at her. She's so lovely. Now I'm going to sign over here. I'm going to take a little bit of my green and my ultramarine and my titanium white, and it's going to create a color that you can see, but isn't going to pull from the whole composition. Yeah, the signature is there and visible, but not disruptive or unpretty or... Oh, she's so pretty. So we did it. Ha! Challenge accepted. Challenge faced. Challenge achieved. Oh my goodness. All right, turning around. Oh, there we go. How do you guys like her?
That turned out so nice.
Isn't she just lovely? Isn't that, couldn't you just stare at her and stare at her and stare at her? I'm super pleased with her. I'll definitely get a photograph of her and put her into the webpage so you can see the finished painting there. For everyone who spent time with me on this beautiful Saturday, thank you so much for your valuable time. I hope you're enjoying your art adventures. I hope you're growing in your art skills every day. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. And I want to see you in an easel really soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.